basically communicate about Sweden. We use web, we use books, film, radio, all those things. And one of the objectives of going into Second Life was that we wanted to add the 3D web to our toolbox of tools so that we could do immersive publishing. And another reason is that we actually didn't know how to use it, and we were very interested in figuring out what works and what doesn't. So we wanted to go in and be among the first and really figure out space, so that when all this gets bigger and goes mainstream, we can be the experts and basically be more effective at using the space. So I can see that you can see this is me, right? Okay. So basically, we started building this in January 2007, and then by May we were ready, and we inaugurated with the foreign minister Carl Bildt. Then we've learned a lot of lessons since. One thing that we learned was, I'm going to show you the embassy just in a second, I'm just going to talk about it just for briefly, was that it's all been well to have a beachhead there, and the exhibits are really great, and you should go visit them, but you only need to visit them once. What really gets people to come back is events, social events. We figured out that really Second Life excels in a specific way, which is so as a fluid, informal group communications tool. And we also figured out that we don't want to do things that we can do better on the web. Second Life is not good for showing static things like text. It's not good for just if you want to show a movie, you can see it on YouTube. But what it is good for is showing a movie to lots of different people at the same time, having the director or the producer of that film be there at the same space, and then letting everybody ask questions to the director. So you really have a virtual meeting.
Like this reality, except not necessarily shackled to the laws of physics the same way. And so we work with Fortune 500 companies, not-for-profits, governments, diplomatic agencies, anyone who's looking to participate in the emergence of a new global culture in the imagination age. And everyone's still experimenting together to see what that means. For example, one of our clients is IBM, and we did a study for them on the emergence of their virtual universe community. So a year and a half ago, there were 15 international IBMers who were interested in pursuing this technology and immersive medium, and the company was not particularly that interested because they didn't understand it, just like most people don't understand it right now. But this group was very persistent, and ultimately what ended up happening was now there's 6,000 international, almost 6,000 international IBMers who are participating in multiple platforms, not just Second Life. There are many, many platforms. Second Life just happens to be the most viable social platform right now, and also the most glamorous. Most people have heard of Second Life. But as far as from a diplomatic perspective, my particular area of interest is more in creating bridges between different cultures, different groups of people. This immersive medium allows people to connect on a much deeper level, because you're not seeing the things that are normally associated with status, hierarchy, cultural differences. And so what's happening, because everyone's learning together, is that a new culture is forming that brings in the best of each culture and forms something new. And so the emblem for our business is called a Sankofa. I spent 6 months in the Gulf Coast after Hurricane Katrina studying post-Katrina corporate profiteering, and one thing I learned during that time is that the slaves who were brought in from West Africa to build the city put this symbol all over the wrought ironwork. It's a heart with a spiral at the bottom. The symbol means in order to build the future, you can't forget the past. And so it is my strong belief, and the beliefs of our clients, that while this technology is very new, it is clearly the direction in which the world is going, and those who are experimenting now will have some degree of mastery over the media by the time it goes mainstream, which is not going to be that far away from now. Gartner, which is a research firm, very accurate predictions come out of Gartner, believes that by the year 2011, 80% of all active internet users will have avatars and will be using virtual worlds. 2011 is not that far away. So early experiments with the medium are very critical right now. And so regardless of what field you're in particularly, the first step is to find the passionate early adopters within your agency or organization. And those are the people that we work with at Dancing Inc. traditionally. And figure out a way that those people can sort of start introducing this culture to the companies, to their NGOs, to the government, wherever they're from, because they will carry the effort through. And so, for example, with IBM, you have a huge effort of virtual volunteerism going on right now, because these people are learning on their own time how to do this. And so it's really benefiting the company. And there's an evolution going on in the world away from the concept of multinational corporations, which are traditionally considered exploitative, toward the concept of a globally integrated enterprise, which fosters creativity among the individuals comprising the workforce so that the collaborative whole is enhanced. And I'm going to go over, or even the windmill right now, I'm going to teleport to the windmill where Joshua and I work so you can see it. It's very different than the islands. This island is owned by the lead virtual architect at IBM. It's a private island, and it's our workspace where we meet with clients, where many of the interviews are conducted for our reports. And one thing I've noticed in doing this work is that even when people it's called resin, but it's still resin around us. Even when people disagree about the best way to proceed, there's a real attitude, an organic effort to work together, where it's really unprecedented. And for example, this plays into the concept of diplomacy in some way, I think, is that when you have a workforce in China and a workforce in Brazil, a workforce in India, and it's difficult to motivate people to work together because they're working across cultural chasms, these mediums tend to give people something in common to focus on. And I've interviewed people who have readjusted their entire circadian rhythm and sleep cycles in order to work on science projects and all manner of very important things. So it isn't just, the social aspect is critical, but it's also, there are science labs where people are working on protein folding, mad cow, Alzheimer's, all sorts of issues that are extremely critical. And so this is our workspace. It's hard to know how much people know about these spaces. People are very resistant to them, largely, as Joshua said, because the media tends to trivialize or demonize this. And the reason why, having been an investigative reporter for 7 years myself on corporate culture, the media, especially the mainstream American media, to be specific, is really, they focus on, mostly celebrity, celebrities getting drunk and acting crazy, things like this. Meanwhile, real news is being largely ignored by the mainstream American media, in my opinion. So what happens is, it's just easier for journalists who aren't familiar with the medium to latch on to stellar failures and to figure out the nuances and the depth of subtle experiments that are really succeeding. And so, in my experience, I've seen amazing success stories in this space, and I'm shocked at what's going on. So I always urge people to completely ignore what they're reading in the media about this, because, in my opinion, it should be covered constantly. It's a major revolution in the world right now, and it will cause a resistance because any major technological change does. But this allows people to connect on a deep, I would say a deep spiritual level beyond cultural boundaries, but inclusive of cultural boundaries. There are synagogues, there are temples, there are churches. Anything you can imagine in real life is in Second Life. And my first week in Second Life, I encountered a Muslim woman in a Jewish synagogue, and I interviewed her, and she told me that she was so relieved to be able to experience it, because all her life she had wondered what goes on in a synagogue, but felt that she might be persecuted or that she might make people uncomfortable. And then when I've seen other things too, that really, I've seen hundreds of avatars coming together from 20, 30 different countries to protest various things around the world and interview them about freedom and what it means to them. And so people are really coming together in new ways, and it's culturally significant and not that expensive to explore and experiment with. And so I'll leave it at that, and if anybody has questions afterward, feel free to ask me.